That's a warm up. It's hard to keep the lips flapping. Hooey! Good morning. It's November 27th, 2023, 10 a.m. Monday. This is the day they sell furniture. Welcome. Catching me 20 minutes after I awake, so I kind of warm my voice up. Is that annoying? Well, I'm sorry. I can do the other one. I'm very quiet. Well, I can fix that, bitch. I can fix that. How about that? Because I don't want to move the mic. Can you hear me now? I'm betting you can, but I'll move it. Oh. Shit. See, that's why I didn't want to move it. Okay. My headphones are soaked. That sucks. And there's water all over the place. And my coffee spilled. Well, that's one way to start a Monday morning. That's one way to start a Monday morning. One way to start a Monday morning. Well, the good news is that it didn't get in the... oh, thank you, baby. Give me another one. And you know what I care about more than anything right now?
More coffee?
Coffee.
You want more coffee?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of sugar?
Just a little bit of sugar. Hello, Selena. Good morning, Sophia. I got a lot done already, yeah. This is my comms headphone for Eve. This is, oh man, I hope it didn't do. If this thing is messed up, that sucks. This is a Sennheiser microphone that I've kept alive and kicking my duct tape and Gorilla Glue and a little extra. Oh man, it feels like it's soaked. That really, really sucks. Okay. I'll be with you shortly. You gotta laugh, Selena. Shit. Oh yeah, I can feel the water all up in. Great. That's great. Okay. I won't forget this broadcast. Oh man. So I guess y'all can hear me now. Better, at least. Yeah? Is that problem solved? Is it better? Yeah. You see what happens when I try to do nice things? All right, it's better though. I'll get Cynthia to do the beach thing. And it looks like, actually it doesn't look like it got wet inside the assembly, which is good. All right. Let's check and see if it works. Check. I'm not getting a signal, but that doesn't mean that it's not working. It's probably something on my, yeah, it's on my end. Rear 1/8 inch. There we go. There are currently unsaved changes. Would you like to keep them? Yes. Alright. Cool. Now let's check it. Haha. Still works. Oh no, Beach. Listen. I had so much shit on my... Look, I'll show y'all. It's a mess right here. You can't really see, but there's a table right here. I went to grab the mic, and I hit this, my big water bottle, and it knocked it over, and then knocked the coffee over all onto my headphones, and well, just down the side of my hip. Actually, kind of felt good on the side of my hip. You know, the heat. Now it's starting to feel cold, but I'll absorb the coffee through my skin, right? So, fuck it. No use crying over it. Wait a minute, what am I doing here? There's Ashley. I'll talk about her in a little bit. Today's subject. My channel is a combination and collaboration now with AI. I use AI to, and I prompt it. I use multiple prompts. So I'll have a whole discussion about what it is I do, and then I've also had another AI analyze all of my videos that are currently up, and was able to make good large language model, like, hey, I noticed that you talk about this and this and this and this, and it picks up a lot. So oh, I need coffee. So it picks up a lot, and it makes it easy for me to schedule my I think you are showing us, this is a comment by Selma, complicated last name. I think you are showing us in real time how laughter helps with healing. Ah, okay. Well, you know, the jester in history is a really interesting figure, because they had this thing called jester's privilege, and they could say things that other people couldn't, and do stupid things that most people would be ridiculed for. But sometimes it would be for the benefit of everyone. If someone, if a community or village or whatever town experienced some kind of fucked up shit, they could make jokes about it, and people would be like, "Well, he's got the privilege. He's got jester's privilege," and I think that was healthy for the society and, well, the social structure. You know, so long as the person making jest isn't a complete douchebag. Thank you, baby.
Okay.
Thank you for helping me. She's at work and she's helping me because she saw I'm in my big ass chair here, and it's kind of a whole ordeal to get out once I'm in. Kind of like being strapped into a cockpit. Again, I'll show you the raw source. All that's in front of me. This is all. Okay, so the journey of healing. Overcoming. Oh, you got Lulu? Hold on. Overcoming trauma from high control groups like this. If you have a Chihuahua, look there. No, you come back. No one's. I don't think anyone saw.
Oh, I had her in front.
Yeah, because she was cut off there. Hey, Lulu, I will be free from your coercive control. I will not allow you to oppress or suppress me any longer. But I know that's not true because
She looked like she don't know where she's
gonna
at.
bark.
Okay.
All right, babe. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I can run the intro. If I can reach it. And let's not spill any more coffee. Here we go. All right. Why do we need this screen? We don't really. That's my Facebook page. That's my YouTube page. Here's my, where is it? Dashboard. Continue with Google. Why is that right side? It is Monday. I'll have you know. All right. So, there we go. Buy me a coffee page. There it is. And also, check out the music page. I do the music there now. I separated it. The only time you'll see any music really is if I go over the creative processing stuff that I used to do years ago and talk about how screwed up I was and what I was doing, how my life was going. This is the LaFleur Brothers official page. We have the whole album on here, Pain and Suffering, and the official video for it. See, what else I need to promote? Every Thursday, generally, I haven't missed many, KFUK radio is a broadcast that I do out of, I misspelled that, New Orleans and Southeast and Southwest Louisiana music. It's called High Noon, or Thursdays at 2. And that's on this YouTube, Delta Gold Media. So if you don't mind, if you like music, want to support it, there's that. Yeah, I set up coffee pages for every separate one. We'll see what ends up being the most helpful in that regard. This is my friend Ashley. I can't help but think of her in a journey of healing and recovery. And feel free to post. I know there's shit going on. I got my own little world over here, and I have been poking my head out a little bit to see what's been going on in the whole community things. But I have managed to not sully my eyes or ears with anything either side has had to say. So, and as with everyone has their own perspective on everything. We're talking about healing, recovering. That's what I'm talking about. But, you know, considering where this channel started, you know, what happened to it and where it is now, there's some things community related, because I'm part of that I guess statistical group that were in the high control group of Scientology. So I guess I'll address that first. High control group Scientology. It is a high control group, and if you were in it, you were probably subjected to high control and coercive control. You probably thought you were doing the right thing. And just like someone, I have friends who grew up in coercive groups, like other Catholics. Not all Catholics, but some particular Catholic groups. Baptists. And some of the worst I saw growing up in the South was the Pentecostals. Just terrible. Pentecostals. My friends tried to, and they would always their parents would try to get me to go to their church. And I would go once, and I'd see, and they'd be like speaking in tongues and whatnot. I put the picture of Ashley up because this picture she sent me before I went to Sacramento and right after Brian Moore died, close friend of mine, bass player, legendary bassist in southern Louisiana, founder of a band called Linkage, and a teacher to a lot of people, mentor, friend, guardian. He's sort of like a guardian angel. There was nobody that didn't like Brian, and we were very close. And so it was a double whammy on top of everything else. And the journey for healing for me was really quite, I guess, yeah, it was a journey that I had to go on. It was like feels like a story of a book, maybe the book of Job or something. Yeah, I was out at that moment too. I was like, I'm gonna go wait in the lobby. Sophia commented about the speaking in tongues. It's just like, I'm out when that happens. Well, that was me too. I went and hung out in the lobby, and my friend Daniel was like, oh, thank God, now I have an excuse not to do this. So, and it just, it was bizarre. It was very bizarre. So, what I was gonna say was that when you leave control groups, like my friend Nate, you can reserve, you can hold on, like, the really bad stuff is really bad, but is the other stuff, the other information you were taught, the Bible stuff, is all of it bad? Absolutely not. But the trickiness of it, to me, at least there's some mental gymnastics that were involved for me. I couldn't throw away Scientology wholesale, just like Nathan couldn't throw away the Pentecost wholesale or Pentecostal religion wholesale. Like, I was having issues with sorting out, well, that's not right for sure, but there's some validity to it. But in my mind, being cultivated as an extremist, like, there's no two ways about it. Like, it's either all in or all out. You're either in the circle or out the circle. So, coming to terms with that, and depending on the person, and what they consider to be valuable information and invaluable, or useless information, or what's wrong and what was right. Like, some people might think, oh yeah, the corporal punishment was where it's at, spare the rod and spoil the child. I still believe that, and I'll believe that till the day I die. Could do some serious psychological damage. And just the same in Scientology, the types of things that go on behind the scenes, especially in upper level management, are, they get away with fraud all the time. Like, that's the name of their game, is fraud. So, even without necessarily realizing it, good morning, Blues, or maybe realizing it and saying, well, this is the only thing I know to do. Or maybe they still believe, the same way they did before, but they've let go of other beliefs. This was why years ago, in 2017, I took a break. My channel got canceled, so to speak, for using a racial slur, which I didn't even really know was a racial slur until someone blasted it. It was not an issue. It had never come up. No one had ever said, "Oh, this is bad." Like, because I explained the term in terms of what it was explained to me as. Like, anyways, so that was disheartening, and because that my journey was partly sharing my experiences, and so the channel being called out on public social media to 20, 30,000 people that are international group of people um, was not a good thing for that. Good morning, Brian. I spilled my coffee, dude. It was. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. Maybe make a clip, a little replay, because I was not expecting that. Um, yeah. So I changed my channel name just to my name, and I kind of backed out of the whole trauma community, ex Scientology community deal, like unofficially. And but I stayed in contact with like Christy Gordon and Chris Shelton and a couple people that are not on YouTube or anything. And we were all in therapy, you know? And I'll say that it is probably a good idea. In fact, it is probably the best idea after leaving a coercive control, high control group to go see, or, well, first, you need to find a therapist that you like. Which view is better, this one or this one? Which do you prefer? I'm not so sure because I'm all tiny, or maybe, oh, this one? No, because that's still tiny. I guess it doesn't matter. Um, Therapy. Finding a therapist that you can work with, another person, another human being, that's not a fucking auditor or a priest or a rabbi or whatever, in R2 is better. I don't know if that is. Oh, that's Ashley Castle. I will talk about her some more. I was answering Blues' question there. Finding a therapist is, I'm not going to say it's easy. And then number two, if you don't have a good source of income, if you're unemployable, like many people are after leaving these groups, then because you're so screwed up, then yeah, Medicaid, and then you have to work through that whole system, which is what I had to do. It was a nightmare. It still is a nightmare. But to do it, and I've got some really good providers now. It took me years, but you know, I started in 2015. I really didn't start getting good providers until about 2017. Consistent care. And the thing is cognitive behavioral therapy can really help, and I'll tell you why. It can help people who've left coercive control groups or family, because in my situation, it was family cult that I lived with for years, and then I switched to Scientology, and then I brought all of that into my music world, the music community. and my gaming community. Phew. All right, so cognitive behavioral therapy. Let's just look it up, and then we can see how it can help. Let's see what it could do. All right. This is from the Cleveland Clinic. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is a structured, goal-oriented type of talk therapy. It can help manage mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety and emotional concerns, such as coping with grief or stress. That's the highlighted part. So, I mean, if you're in a coercive group, you probably got goals. I would imagine you'd have plenty of goals to work with. The nature of those sorts of groups is very much based on rewards and punishments. So goals to get rewards seems like a pretty good approach right there already. And it can help help manage mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and emotional concerns such as coping with grief or stress, of which the person, I will say, in my case, many times was not even aware was there. Was not even aware it was there. So what is it? That's what that is. Psychologists, therapists, and counselors use it. Now, you got to find somebody that you feel comfortable with. That's the number one thing that I have heard from my friends or other people, stopping them from going and getting a therapist. Is, they go see somebody, they don't like them. They like, what, therapists are assholes. Or they go and see someone else and they don't like them. And they're like, God, therapists are really assholes. And the thing is you got to keep going until you find that person. You got to find your person. It's a partner. You're working through shit together. And this person, especially if you're in there's some psychologists out there that don't really want to deal with the kind of trauma some people have. Big surprise. They don't want to sit in an office all day and listen to someone talk about being raped as a child, and what people did to them and what they did to themselves all day long. Because I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, more than 2 in 10 out of everybody. Because we have a mental health crisis in the United States. Could be up to 4 out of 10 people have severe trauma they need to deal with. So there's clinics that suck. They're usually the ones that accept the highest form of Medicare or the highest form of insurance that you can get. But they'll accept, medium to low, but, they're there for the money. And if you go there with a heavy trauma case, in my experience, they just don't really. They'll give you coping mechanisms, but they don't really want to get that involved in your case. And so progress is slow. And so you could get caught in a situation like that where it's like, you know what? Therapy is not going to help me. And then, start maladaptively coping with alcohol or drugs or hypersexuality or whatever. And still, you got to find that person that's going to work for you. So CBT is based on core principles. partly based on problematic or unhelpful patterns of thinking, partly based on learned patterns of unhelpful behavior, partly based on problematic core beliefs. See how this could help with being leaving a high control group, because you're going to have you're going to have a hardcore core set of beliefs, including central ideas about yourself and the world. Yeah, people experiencing psychological issues can learn better ways of coping with them. This can help relieve their symptoms and improve their mental and emotional health. It can treat all kinds of these are the bullet list stuff that it can treat. How does it work? The therapist plays a crucial role here, because they have to kind of know what you're involved in. They have to do a little bit of research or have some knowledge of it. But when they do, they can start to ask questions, that bring up certain things, get you to think about it in a different way. And then how to recognize when those problems come up for you, how to handle those, and to work with you to adjust your thought and behavior. So this is you're modifying how you think. You're changing the way that you thought into a new, more healthy way. Risks, benefits. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps you become more aware of your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. After CBT, most people adopt healthier habits. CBT can't make a stressful situation disappear, but you can respond to them more positively and feel better overall. Many studies show that CBT is as effective as or more effective than other forms of psychological therapy or psychiatric medications. Depending on your situation, you might feel slightly more upset during therapy. Your therapist can help you work through these feelings. You can use new skills to overcome negative emotions. I can't say that I haven't experienced any of that. Yeah, sometimes it's hard, and it can be difficult to want to even think about, much less talk about some things that you've experienced. And then sometimes, well, that's a whole nother therapy, but EMDR is also a very powerful therapy that I was quite surprised at how effective it was, and also how similar it seems as an ex-Scientologist to auditing. It took me about 2 years, almost 3, to prepare myself mentally to be able to get EMDR. Had to do a lot of CBT to be able to get to do EMDR, really. So CBT, but there is lots of CBT that I did, and there were lots of situations that came up where I had to learn a coping skill for my particular trauma to heal from it so that it doesn't hurt me anymore, or God forbid anyone else who might deserve it. Lots of that. And in my opinion, everyone who's leaving especially Scientology, needs to be seeing a therapist. That should be part of the aftermath's goal, is to get people in therapy, not join the Catholic Church. Recovery and outlook. How long will I need cognitive behavioral therapy? Well, cognitive behavioral therapy usually lasts for 12 to 20 weeks. And I would say that that's more like one of those psychology groups that is more in it for the money. They're handling, I'm not going to say it's baseless trauma, trauma's trauma, but not everyone has. I don't like saying this, so I'll quote it from my therapist. Not everyone has the same amount of trauma. Some people have more. End quote. And she was looking right at me. Okay, so 12 to 20 weeks, I would say that's on average for, like, say, your if you have a child that's, in school and has a counselor, like, that would be the minimum amount of therapy needed after high school. Just from that, from age, from school age up to graduation of high school, 12 to 20 weeks might handle that. Might help with developing coping mechanisms. Y'all are funny. Oh, she knows she has a cute smile. Blues talking about Ashley. She knows how cute she is. Good morning, Whitney. Well, I didn't realize I'm way behind on chat. Okay, let's look. Yes, a good therapist is essential. Where am I at? Okay, cute smile. Oh, you mean a trained medical professional? Yes, Sophia. They don't call them medical professionals here. They're not good enough to be medical professionals. They're mental health professionals here in the U.S. Blues, I had a period when all I wanted to talk about was my healing and how click when I realized what happened was the biggest thing ever. I was told that these are normal, quote, phases. A good therapist is essential. Thanks for sharing. There should be an algorithm-based matching app for that. Yes, Mock Sophia. I'm sure it's well on its way and being developed. AI is going so fast. Whitney, I'm preparing for my therapist to retire. Oh, that sucks. I had my psychiatrist retired a year and a half after I got her, and luckily, I got a really good one afterwards. Luckily, she's just way busy. My other psychiatrist had time. When I say time, psychiatrists don't have much time. They're basically drug pushers. And that's not from the Scientology thing. No, that comes from. That's another quote from my therapist. She gets along with the psychiatrist. They have an open line of communication, but yeah, like basically Laura, my psychiatrist, sits in her office and writes prescriptions all day because she has a license to do that, and there's just not enough in the state. So she writes prescriptions for like 10,000 people or something a week. It's crazy. Not a lot of time to chat, which is not really good if you're a psychiatrist working with a psychologist. You want to be able to take time. So there's a real shortage of mental health professionals for the need. But there's a lot of mental health professionals, but there's such a great need for mental health services that here in Louisiana, my psychiatrist, 10,000 prescriptions a week. Let's make one. Yeah, I mean, that would be cool. Just need some seed money, I guess. Okay, Selma, I'll watch the rest later. Have to cook for the family. Have a great day, everybody. You too, Selma, and have a good week too. Witness, yeah, we're working on another therapist for transition, but body blue, raised arms. Oh, okay. I think that we're gonna through the most messed up stuff though, so that's good. I'll be okay. Yeah, I mean, you'll get another therapist, you know, and it's a whole nother journey there. Um, I definitely think that 15-minute sessions with psychiatrist. Yeah, that's what they do. That's it. 15, if that. Okay, how long will I need cognitive behavioral therapy? We covered that. When to call the doctor? When should I see my health care provider? Well, just before I even read any of that, if you have been in a coercive control group and you leave and you're in a community of people who have been under the influence, some of them for much longer than you have, whole life in it, you call the doctor now. Now. And I was ready to do that in 2015, and I did that before the divorce. And then it was court ordered. And I was more than happy to, because now I had a real damn good reason to go. But, yeah, if you've left a coercive control group or a toxic ass family or relationship that is coercive and controlling and has these really strict rules with rewards and punishments that are severe, cruel, and unusual, that's when as soon as you leave, you get help. That's just my hot take. But it says, when should I see a healthcare provider? It's normal to feel uncomfortable during therapy because it can be painful to explore negative emotions, fears, and past experiences. You damn right. Who wants to sit there and go back to the worst moments of your life, of which there may be many? And there are many. Like, pick one. It's absolutely fucking horrifying sometimes to go into therapy, especially if there's something that you know you're going to be talking about. If your therapist says, well, next time I want to talk about this other thing. Oh, fuck. So you may experience uncomfortable stuff. If your symptoms get worse or you experience more severe anxiety or depression, contact your health provider right away. Yes, that's what they're there for. And this is the thing about finding the right therapist. If they don't want to pick up the phone when you're having, some severe anxiety and depression, get a different therapist. You want someone who's going to pick up the phone. And then at the end there, get help immediately if you have thoughts of suicide or if you're thinking about harming yourself or others. I had a lot of suicidal thoughts and attempts from a very early age, and that stopped for a long time, and then they would pop up occasionally, but then I had an urge about harming someone who had inflicted years of abuse, physical, mental, emotional, and had tried to kill people. Children. Me. My brother, my father. And honestly, my mother. Emotionally kill her. Just completely kill her. Take away all of her children. And to be the hero. Which is just like, what? So, the there was a time, there was a moment, there was in 2018, I made a very clear, bold statement to my stepfather with a weapon, and I offered him the weapon to just go ahead and take care of me, because if he didn't and he continued abusing, at the time, my nephew, active domestic shit. Emotional terrorism is a really good way to put that, because when you do that, you incite violence. You will incite violence. Good morning, Leo. Catching up. Awesome. Yeah, hang in there. I spilled the coffee. It's great. I'm being very vulnerable. Probably more just like clumsy. So, yeah. I threatened him, and I told him that if he didn't want my threat carried out, he better kill me or stand down, essentially. Because when he didn't, when he froze like a coward that he is and dropped the knife, I picked it up and I put it onto his sternum. And I squeezed that thing so hard that my intercostals stretched or tore, because I could feel the bone there. That's a lot of bone to get through. And I didn't want to be shaking. I was statuesque, because I was ready to use my entire body weight to punch through the sternum and stab him. Until he promised me that he would knock it the fuck off. Knock it the fuck off. Now, the thing was, and what, knock off what? Well, he was trying to get custody of my nephew so that he could, quote, fix him. And fixing for him is abuse, emotional terrorism, physical abuse. You suck. You're never good enough. No one likes you. You're not good at anything. Listen to what I say. Do what I want you to do. Serve me. It's a master-slave relationship. Just like in Scientology, a junior-senior relationship, or senior-junior, master-slave. All right, so first thing, I know this might scare Leo as he catches up, but first thing, dude, go find, and it may take more than 4 or 5 times. You'll know. Check your knowingness, man, even if you have to hang on to that concept, because there's something to that. But if you're like me, there was a lot of other things attached to it that it was hard not to think about Scientology when I would say words like that. But there is something to that knowingness thing. It's called chemistry. When you meet somebody and you're like, I'm going to get along with this person. We had it on staff. We had it, you have it everywhere you go. There's sometimes just not good chemistry. Sophia, aren't they usually cowards when you stand up for yourself? Well, I hadn't stood up for myself for a long time with him. I had just sort of like I would dismiss most of what he said, but not everything. But my nephew, I was standing up for him, and it was way more personal at that time for some reason, because I'm an adult now and I know what's going on, but my nephew was, still a teen, and I know what was in store had he got his hands on him, and he was better off in jail. That's an extreme statement, but it's true. Nick is doing great now. For now. I mean, he's still 19. He's going to do thing. He's going to do stupid stuff, probably. Already has been doing. Some of it he tells me about, but it's nothing like the extreme, which is good. And to say that he was better off in jail than in the custody of my stepfather, I know that sounds really extreme, but yeah, he was better off. So I went to, oh, yeah, speaking on that last point, when to call a doctor. Because I'd been in therapy already since 2015, and this happened in 2018, this was a crisis situation that was being managed by, my therapist at the time, who specialized in crisis situations. And she's one of those therapists that damn all the rules if there's someone in danger, or especially a child in danger. And she had her license suspended for saving a child from going back to her sexual abuser's house because there was just nowhere else for her to go, and that's where she had to go. Well, that was not happening with at that time my therapist. And she said, "Get your shit. I'm gonna drive you over there. We're gonna get your stuff, and you're gonna come stay with me." I've done that with someone who wasn't my child. And she calls me dad now. She's like my little surrogate daughter. So you see how it's a match. You got to find a match, someone who holds similar. There's some chemistry there. Like the fact that she did that and she lost her license, and I did that, and I was I was in the middle of a divorce, and being accused of being some kind of pedophile, and I'm letting a 14-year-old suicidal girl who's being sexually abused stay in my house, my mother's house. I'm taking middle of the divorce where they're accusing me of this stuff and being evaluated by the state of Louisiana, by the state evaluator, psychiatrist, John Simino. He's probably still, or has recently retired. So, despite that risk, when I saw this child crying and said, "I don't want to go back there," it's like, okay, you don't have to. And cops came. Lieutenant was like, "Yeah, this is fine." And her mother, the child's mother, called in a favor, had another police officer come, and that was one of the most gut-wrenching moments. Because whenever Vanessa left with the kids, there was no, tearing apart of the children from me. But in that situation, it echoed that sentiment of being ripped away from your children. And if you have children, it's different when you watch these I watched this movie called The Train, and it was about the Holocaust, and just, oh God, it's horrific. Being separated and ripped away from your children is just so fucked up. And and especially at that time, because she thought that she was free. I knew that she wasn't necessarily going to be. And I didn't know what the hell to do, but I sure as hell knew she didn't need to go back there. So, when to call an expert, when to call a healthcare an emergency, when you have thoughts about suicide or you're thinking about harming yourself or others. So by this time in 2018, I definitely had some CBT, and I recognized it. I was like, holy shit, I just did that. That's not quite right. Like, I'm extreme, but not usually that extreme. And so I called another therapist, and they saw me immediately. And because she couldn't judge the severity of the situation very well, because she was an out-of-town therapist, she decided to go ahead and have me committed to protect me. Because there were situations where me and my target, so to speak, were crossing paths on a daily basis. And he was actively seeking to resolve whatever that was, that incident. And because it traumatized him, and he became a complete mindless blank slate of a person, like he never knew he did anything wrong ever. You know, people deserve punishment for horrible things they do, but rarely, I think, is it. I do think that having a system, as much as I've been a victim of the system, the court system, especially in Louisiana, southern Louisiana, and the laws, I have been a victim insofar as, parental rights, but not so much financially anymore. My brother Mark, when he got divorced, it was just rapacious for the time. Like if it was scaled up to what he had, like if I had to pay the child support that he had to pay, and it was scaled up to today's money, it would be something like $2,400 a month. And the judge saw everything that happened and how I didn't have much to begin with, and that the divorce bankrupted me and some of my friends. No, it didn't bankrupt my friends, but it bankrupted me. I got the minimum amount of child support because of the accusations, and that they were baseless and stuff. And we both went to an evaluator. The evaluator submitted his report and was like, "This is not real. There's no reports. There's no sign indicators. Yes, Marcus Lee Sawyer has these issues. Yes, Vanessa Ann Joyner has these issues, but nothing makes sense in regards to all these 30 or some odd allegations. This is real life's version of fair game. You know, it happens to a lot of people, not just dudes, women too. Get their children stolen. It's either the system will support it or they have enough money and influence. So, I know I'm meandering a bit, y'all. It's I've got a busy week ahead of me, and I've been thinking a lot, just sort of talking openly now. Last night I went in the chat for some I went into Chad and Poe's chat. Apparently Poe is being fair gamed. I emailed him this morning and asked him what is that about. And as soon as I got into the chat, they were wrapping up on their broadcast. And then I jumped over to Denver Steve-O's broadcast. Saw that he shaved his head or something. Chatted in there for a while. Spoke briefly with Alex. And there's some, Sophia. I'm starting to sense Sophia, like the frustration of like, just be transparent. And it's so true. The only thing that I have trouble with being transparent about is when there's people who are actively who are trying to get out, or family that's got family that's staying in. Because there's a whole process of letting go, and accepting that reality. It's got to be it's got to be different for everybody. I mean, I can relate insofar as that, since my kids were 1 and 3, I've seen them as much as I can, but it ain't enough. It's never enough for me, and I can't coordinate with my ex-wife. Won't respond to texts. Only responds to texts worded certain ways. It's all very much drafted in all kinds of documents how I can speak to her and all this stuff, and she just will not respond. So we use an intermediary. So it is essentially the same as it was when the order of supervision was made, but that supervised visitation was only for 6 months, but it carried over. It's carried over for years, and unless I can take her to court, what the fuck I'm gonna do? Completely unwilling to communicate, even to the point of when Hurricane Laura was coming through. What are you doing? No response. Next day, it's headed to Lake Charles. Where are you going? What are you doing? You need to evacuate. We're gonna stay. No, you're not. I had to call my mama because she'll talk to her about pretty much anything. So the good news is that my kids love me. The bad news is that I don't get to see them like I want to. And there's this weird it's not weird, it's actually quite normal. People don't for whatever reason, mourning an unborn child has been, socially like, well, it wasn't really born yet. It wasn't really a thing. No, it was, and it is. And, so after after accepting all of those terrible things, which to me they are terrible, like not being able to see your kids, and having to jump through all these hoops, and doing that, and then after all of that, now the setting continues. You're gonna have to jump through these hoops until they're 18. So I can do what I can do. I go to the school things. I go and take them places, the beach, see alligators, and stuff, whatever they want to do. But that was the situation that that picture of Ashley right there. That she's a true friend of mine. I've known her since I was in high school. She sent me this picture in 2019, right after Brian died, a couple days. She was out somewhere and doing something cool, because that's what she does. She goes to cool things. As you can see, she's beautiful and cute, and she knows it. She dresses all cute, and she's very southern and very ladylike. But she's very worldly person. She's been all over the world. She lived in South Korea. She's visited Italy, Greece, France, Rome. At a very early age, she visited those places. And so she always, when she went there and she came back, she had a whole new view. And she was always a supporter of the music community in Lake Charles and Baton Rouge and in New Orleans, and just the arts in general. When I came back from Sacramento, I was unsure of what was going to happen, and grieving over the loss of a child. I'm very upset, irritated, confused, because I was living, or the only place I had to go was Ira and my mother's, and that didn't last long. I quickly was able to get a ride to New Orleans, and I called Ashley just to let her know what was going on, and she lives here in New Orleans, by the way, for almost 20, probably 20 years now, and it had worked out in 2017 when I left Lake Charles, shortly after I did the interview with Aaron. Ira and it got to, inches of becoming physical. And that night I packed my bags, and that morning I called my brother Mark, and he brought me to Travis's in Jackson just to get me as far away as possible, because I needed to get medical attention, and Ira's constantly stressed and telling me to go back to work when I can't go back to work. I can't even lift 10 pounds. Yes, I can. I can lift more than that. If I continue to do it, I'm going to seriously hurt myself. And I did anyway. I got procedures still coming up. Facet joint injections, radio frequency ablation, medial nerve branch block. But September, I arrived in Lake Charles August of 2019, in that state of mind that I described earlier. And Ashley called me. And at that point, because I'd already been been committed, and the terms of my release, the coroner didn't want to release me. He didn't want to deal with a homicide. I had to get my mother to corroborate what I was saying to the social workers, because they didn't believe anything I was saying. They thought I was some kind of sociopath or something. Because I would sit on the corner of the bed in Lotus for 6 hours a day, sometimes more. For the first 6 days I did that. I would go and eat, I would go and take a shower, I would go smoke. But if I wasn't doing that, I was either walking up and down the hall or sitting in Lotus. I didn't speak to anybody except for the people that worked at the facility. The doctors, nurses, social workers, and charge nurse. charge nurse accused me of helping someone escape. Why me? Well, you just look that way. You just look like you. What the hell does that mean? I look like someone who knows how to break out of jail or break out of somewhere. Well, first of all, this is not code. You cannot bar people in for the code because it's against fire code. They skirted the fire code, and an OSHA inspector, or any inspector, really, fire code inspector especially, would fine you several $1,000s, if not 10,000 or tens of thousands of dollars, at a medical facility that has screws in the sides of the window frame to keep people from getting out. What if there's a fire? And do you have a fire escape plan? And she said, see, this is why I think you helped her escape. Why? Because I know that about building code? That doesn't make any sense. And they called the owner of this facility, who was some bougie, what she seemed like a bougie. She had one of those stickers on her car, one of those MLM, like healthy food or blenders, or I don't fucking know. There's so many of them that I can't think of the name. But she did have a lot of money, apparently, and this facility had been negligent homicide. Fuck, I don't know. I'm crossing the streams here. Just laissez-faire this November, and this is the time of year where I kind of chill. I don't know if that has something to do with when you were born, but I've decided that from this point forward I will remain 42. And how I'm gonna keep track of it, I don't know, because every year I'm gonna be 42. This is gonna be a lot to keep track of. So Ashley called me and asked me, what's up? What are you doing? Because I'd stayed there before. After I had to leave Jackson, and she doesn't like staying alone. She likes company. She also liked having a male living with her. And I guess it doesn't hurt that, she's a sweetheart and I love her, and, if something were to, if there was any threat or anything, or even her son, like I would watch her son, Eli, while she could go do something, which is nice when you're a parent, be able to actually go, hey, how am I going to go do something I want to do? So she called and she was like, what is going on with your medical stuff? And something like that. She had recommended University Medical Center here to me, and I went, and it's been amazing. All the way down to the parking. So, normally she would just invite me, but I felt so imposing to ask. But I did, because I was in a very desperate situation. I knew that Oh yeah, that's where it crosses the streams. When I was in the mental facility, Genesis, privately owned mental health facility. Uh, oh man, that place was something else. Um, I also, while I was there, used my 5 minutes of phone call time to finish a production that was going on Halloween. Uh, this was October, and they didn't believe that either. They said, "Oh yeah, you got a big production going on." Okay, sure, buddy. And I'm calling Dale Abshire to tell him, to get stage plot, figure out what they need, uh, and what cables are, and what kind of board it is, and all this information that I wrote down that I had to just sort of rapid fire in the 5 minutes that I had. Um, Setting up the lavalier microphones, uh, and the wireless mics and all of that stuff. And so yeah, there was a point at the damn it, crossing the streams. Ashley, Ira. Okay, so I had to have my mother corroborate the the facts of why what was going on was happening, because from all appearances, Ira doesn't have all of these reports. No police reports. No police reports. No police reports. Undocumented domestic violence for 50 years. So the man is not, like, from their perspective as social workers and in that establishment, they were looking at it and they're like, well, you have more of a mental health. You have a record, a history. I don't have any criminal record. I did when I did have a distribution of marijuana charge expunged when I turned 18, but I don't have a criminal record prior to that. But that doesn't mean I didn't commit crimes. People get away with crime all the time. And for long periods of time. Like, to really get away with crime, you just get away with it. And that's what that's exactly what my stepdad did. And I had to come to grips and come to the whole reality. This was fucking difficult. This was difficult. Part of the healing process. Looking back at your childhood with your father figure and realizing that that person was never looking at your interests as a child and being your father. Was never interested in being your father. And past that was trying to get you accidentally oopsed. And prior to that was assaulting your mother while she was pregnant for your brother, trying to force abortions and infections and terminate pregnancies and threatening family members and assaulting family members. What's up, Tish? I saw that you're a winter baby blues. I don't know what that means necessarily, but Ashley called me and she asked me about the medical stuff. She's like, when are you coming back? And it was like such a relief to not have to impose. I did ask. I was like, you don't happen to have room you don't happen to have room for a bum on your couch or something like that, do you? Or would you turn me away if I showed up or something like that? And most compassionately, as always, which makes me emotional to think about, it was absolutely, yeah, come. That's why I was asking. And I'm not saying it's 100% altruistic because, like I said, she could do things. She'd be like, "You can watch Eli, or can you help me with move decorations around or whatever it is I could do, and wash the dishes and stuff sometimes, and cook." She liked it when I cook. Cynthia loves it when I cook. Um, but she cooked too. Uh, and Eli liked the way I cook. So yeah, that period. I moved here September 23rd, 2019. Is the day that I was dropped off by my mother and my cousin Vicky Morrow, who was who married my dad's best friend. And it's a weird day. I rode in the back of the car and I tried to sleep because I hadn't been sleeping for almost 3 weeks, even, having a bed and everything at the old house, staying with Ira. I can't sleep. And, grieving the loss of a child, unborn child. So when I made it to New Orleans, it was just really depressing. And, this is why I wasn't broadcasting. There were a couple of things I posted, but it really does kind of show the state of mind. That I was in. It's just what, but just life. It felt like hit me so goddamn hard, and it will sometimes, and especially, you get into something like controlling like that, and you try to break free from it. You're gonna have all kind of shit, like it described in the CBT. You may feel uncomfortable. You may have extreme anxiety, depression. Those are all things that come from feelings that or that need to be validated in some way, or if they can't be validated, there are ways to cope with them, so that they don't become make a comparison to a wound. You're not it's not getting infected. You're not having to scratch it. It can heal, but yeah, festering wound won't heal. You block the shit out, and it'll fester. And you can do it to a point, if you've done it long enough, to where there are things that you're not even they're not even aware of. Okay, babe, I see that. Not even aware that they're there. Things that are fucking with you, things that make you upset. You're not even, like, you might not even be aware that's there. The thing is that, hold on. Don't let me give you verbal tech here. Traumatic memories have more, are more reliable study. The fact that a memory describes a traumatic event does not make that memory reliable. They're not necessarily accurate memories. Memory distortion for traumatic events. The accuracy of traumatic memories in post-traumatic. I think this is the one, PubMed. This review sought to investigate the accuracy of traumatic memories in persons with a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. PubMed, PsycInfo, and Embassy were searched for articles, and 11 studies were included. 3 different methods of studying memory accuracy were identified in the included articles: coherence, change in recollection of trauma over time, and remembering details of trauma. 3 studies found a deficiency in the accuracy of traumatic memory. Despite some inconsistencies, most of the studies concluded that the memory of trauma is as accurate in people with those as people without PTSD. The only recurring difference identified across studies was in recollection of trauma over time. Recollection. The only recurring difference identified across studies was recollection of trauma over time. The findings are of importance both clinically and for the legal system. I'm sure they are, because I spoke with my cousin Vic about statutes on certain things. Anyways, so trauma. Now I gotta find this thing, because trauma memory study. Higher. What is he? Consistency amongst other adults. Cumulative exposure to traumatic events in older adults. Impaired event processing. Long-term memory is really okay. Trauma. Well, I mean, what is it even like? So, like I was saying, is you don't things that you don't even remember. So, memory loss. Okay, memory loss from trauma. Dissociative events can happen in connection with one-time isolated events or long-term stress or trauma. Things that can cause this kind of trauma include experiencing neglect or abuse, including physical, sexual, emotional, especially during childhood, but that's also possible for adults. Okay. Dissociative amnesia. Well, without going into detail, all of that applies to me. And in some cases, there were reports of a child being dropped off at a specific person's house. Thanks, Tish. Thank you so much. Um, I don't know why the Lulu didn't howl. I have to relink the thing. So you can have things that were traumatic to a point to where you have dissociative amnesia, where it's sort of like a blank period, blackout. Kind of like blackout drunk. It's a period you just don't remember. I have a lot of those. I knew I had a lot of those before just from my 20s, my teens and 20s. Because I was acting like a 20-year-old when I was 16 as soon as I got emancipated. Mm. Beach. I don't. This. What is the statute of limitation on childhood abuse? Is it different across the states? Yes, it's different across the states. And the statute here. I mean, not that I would. Here's the thing. I've talked to my therapist about this. And I talked to my cousin Vic about this, who worked in the DA office for 25 years. Actually, longer because he wasn't. He was elected for 25 years, served all of his terms. But I'm not interested in this. I'm not really all that interested in, like, pressing charges more than I am. I'm more interested in getting a statement. In other words, I don't want to have to press charges. I want the person to make a statement. And, yeah, maybe with that statement, we could get it put in a home or something. Because he is truly a danger. My mother likes to try to comfort me, say, hey, I know how to deal with him, I know how to handle him, but, that man is unpredictable. No statute of limitation on childhood abuse in criminal in the UK. Well, that's awesome. We're in Louisiana. Sophia, am I gonna normal horrified or horrified by the statue? Yeah. Yeah. Sophia, it's Louisiana, Sha. Man, they was beating their kids all the way to the 90s. They didn't know no better. And, that cousin looked pretty. And, people molest their nieces and shit. My mother was sexually abused as a child as well by one of her uncles. It's fucking terrible. And yeah. So I think that really what I want to emphasize in the overcoming and healing from these groups is therapy. I think that, and yeah, okay, broadly speaking, with the community that talks about same shit I talk about, just different way, different people, different experiences. every person that I know from that community who has had therapy has benefited from it tremendously. And those that haven't, they haven't necessarily that I know of that's been shared have any sort of like lingering crisis situation. Yeah, I met one girl in Florida who I think she was on the Aftermath season part 2, but I never watched the Aftermath. But she was homeless at the time, and they were doing a GoFundMe. Before the Aftermath Foundation, Aaron had created, and boy did he snap to, and grab that Facebook page. So the supporters of the Aftermath, the supporters of Leah Remini and the Aftermath, I believe it was called. And there were a couple people coming out of the Sea Org, had some GoFundMes. And when I started talking about Scientology, my wife left me, and I got the nuclear treatment in court, and I got sued for divorce for 2 years, and got cancer, tore my Achilles, and was focusing on my medical treatment and mental health treatment, which was not really compatible with living with Ira. So I had to just leave. I couldn't pay off my trailer. I couldn't pay off my car. So hit the skids, Buster. Now, he wanted me to stay. Fuck you. No way. He wanted to fight. He wanted to break me again. So I highly recommend, not that what the fuck. Like I'm an authority. I recommend, but I do recommend that if you're leaving, get therapy. If you've been abused and you get out of a bad situation, get some therapy. If you had a really fucked up traumatic experience with a roommate, go see a therapist. Find someone to talk to about it. Or you can feel all of those things that you feel that make you either unhappy or depressed or whatever over and over again. And not have any way to cope with it. Sometimes medication might be involved. I like to combine medication and meditation. And from a certain perspective, I see everything as just one big meditation. I love this image of Ashley and what's behind her. It's what's behind her, and she's throwing up the deuces, a peace sign. This was her response I mean, within 24 or 40, probably within 48 hours when Brian died, because we went to his apartment, me and Annie, my cousin, who Annie was Brian's best friend, and got this picture the next morning when I woke up, and just seeing her smile and knowing that she was there for me as a friend, and wouldn't turn me away if I showed up to crash in her sunroom, my little space. It made me feel. It made me feel like, this is life. And she's always been one of those people that enjoys. You can't hardly bum her out. It's hard to do. She's always happy. She had her and her mom. Her mom's pretty traditional, and her dad kind of too. But she says that she had a pretty cool time, growing up. Despite her mother kind of being a prude. I hope she never watches this. Hear me call. I am not a prude. Not Ashley, but her mother. They invited me to Thanksgiving that November, and I spent Thanksgiving with their family, and it was one of those like Christmas Carol type things where you got the poor dude. It's like no one knows, but they're treating me like family. And the food was so good, and we're picking on each other like we know each other. Well, I guess it's because we do, because Ashley and I have known each other a long time. That was just a random. I was looking for something to put on besides. I wanted to change my background. I like this one always. My friend Charlie painted that. My witness, Whitney, my therapist told me I wasn't crazy. And that, to me, is huge. Well, you're probably not crazy. You're probably not crazy. But you probably are, too, a little bit. We're all a little crazy, I think. Sophia, I'm guessing you don't have nice family gatherings? Yeah, I understand. I went to a reunion, and I was invited by Vic, my cousin. I was invited by others, too. I'm always invited. But when I talked to Vic about the statutes and stuff, and told him a little bit about what I was doing in therapy, and was trying to get a timeline, ask him some questions. Was there ever any, do you remember, detonations happening on Bayou Den by a man named Glenn Vincent, or any raids, police raids, standoffs, barricaded situations, barricaded suspect? because Glenn would be shooting in the house. People tend to call the cops. Cops show up and there's a dude shooting. You know, they have a barricaded suspect situation. And he's looked at thousands of cases over, time he was in that office. Thousands. So it's kind of, he had to sort of go back and he's like, yeah, I do kind of remember that. Yeah, there was two raids there because they had a bomb people show up to disarm traps. Because the guy he still thought he would go into these things. He thought he was I don't think he thought he was in Vietnam necessarily, but he did think that there were Viet Cong everywhere. And like under his house, in the walls, in the ceilings, down the road. I mean, wherever he lived like an animal. And that was my babysitter from 1980, whatever, 3 to 1986, when he died. And then he also said that there were reports. He remembered a report of a kid being over there, and that's the one that he remembered because it was like he expected to see raids and like barricaded suspect type stuff coming from that person, but having a child over there was not in the thing, and that sort of stuck out in his memory. But he's not 100% sure. But well, that's good enough for me because I'm the only kid I can think of that would ever went over there. No one would bring their kid and drop them off at Glenn's house alone and leave them there. Dude was discharging firearms constantly. You imagine it, I can imagine it like a movie. Hey, this kid looks like a gook, doesn't he? Well, here, I'm going to give you some money so you can get some food and stuff later, but will you take care of this kid for me? Wow. So, yeah, it's been gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching. There's parts of me and parts of my mind or whatever the fuck this EMDR shit that are like, there's pieces in your brain that apparently, can still be thinking like a kid. And so, like, I went through this weird process where I was thinking like a child, and I'm thinking, but viewing that child from the present through the bilateral stimulation, basically, is what's I think was happening. Because you're being stimulated, and then you're thinking about a memory. And we watched a video, I think last week, about it. And so, like, I'm looking at this thing, this memory, this child, experiencing the child, but looking at it from the current perspective. And yeah, to realize that he cared that little, that early, that soon with a child, like he had, been. The only reason my mother exposed me to him was after a clever little thing he did. She was working and she needed someone to watch him, and her mother and whatever were like, why don't you go ask Ira? And so she went over there reluctantly and kind of, I guess in a sort of pleading way. She from her account, she said, "Look at this baby. Um, I want you to I want you to look at this baby and tell me how you could ever think about harming this." Um, she said, "I need someone to watch him while I go to work." And so it went. He uh, he had the change of heart or whatever. But this is what led to them getting back together. So for the child in me to deal with the fact that that was all for a piece of ass for him, basically, is what it was. He liked the way my mom looked. He liked how she was built. She was kind of tiny, and easy to throw around. Short. He's short. She's still taller than him, but you know, it really is like that damn simple, and that's what makes it so disgusting. Um, so yeah, like sure. Uh, the You're a madman, Wamberger. It'll never fly. We need more dick ships. We need more dicks for the dick ship so that we can get back to Dick Planet. Oh, sir, we're trying to do as much as we can. We've already ripped off 37,000 dicks. What is it, you want to see happen? That's an open-ended question for me and you. What do you envision? It's a simple exercise. It's really common. Might think silly. Maybe it's silly. Maybe it's not. Where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see people in those time periods? Where do you see yourself? Sometimes you can see people on a destructive path. There's nothing you can do about it. Am I right? If I'm right, if you know I'm right, Chad did it. I haven't talked to Chad in a while. Lorna, I don't know if you get the reference, but it's from a cartoon, a stupid, silly little cartoon that's just fun to watch called Aqua Teen Hunger Force. There's an episode called the Dickisode, and it's very funny. Yeah, what is it you see for yourself in a year, 5? It's something that's not, maybe the year thing you can come up with, but for me, I have to think about it. 5 years, 10 years. If I look back and think about what I would hoped for myself 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I think that, and I could see, like, go back into the past and be like, look, here's what it's like. Here's what here's what you're gonna deal with. and here's what the situation is. Like, it'd be like, well, that doesn't sound fucking ideal. But it sounds a hell of a lot better than where it feels like it's going. And Leo, if you are, I know you're behind by like 20 minutes or whatever, but I want to address this to Leo. Like, if you're feeling like that, there's some outside perspective on, what the future can hold, what the future's probably like. Like, it may not be fucking ideal, but it's a hell of a lot better than where it could be going. And I'm really glad you're here, dude. I wish I spoke more Spanish so we could speak in Spanish. It says this started 15 hours ago on my iPad. Doesn't feel that long. Well, time is a paradox. I mean, no, not time isn't a paradox. Time paradox. I can make a time paradox. You want to see it? Woo! Time paradox. Look at it's infinity. There's infinite as far as the pixels can go, which is probably 1920 by 1080, so some finite number. So it's not really infinity, but it looks like it. It's that whole mirror trick. Yes, indeed. Have surgery, have procedures coming up. Have my case file on Social Security, disability. What do you call them? Adjudicator's desk. Sent by DCFS. We'll see. I mean, I am kind of royally fucked when it comes to finance. I could be more fucked, for sure. But just compared to what, what it was before and what it is now, I mean, there was insolvency before, but now it's actually just insolvent. The back pay would be there was a time when I actually, when I had an attorney, and they were like, yeah, it'll be another year or so or less, and then COVID happened. Shot that to shit. And it was going to get resolved one way or the other. They were going to take 6.5% or something like that. But it was coming. Help was on the way. All of my back pay that I paid into the system, which ain't much, but it would have helped tremendously. And I don't, I have zero expectations of from the government anymore. Zero. It's just wherever I am, that's the law, that's the government, whatever I encounter. Law of the jungle here. I really did have to fight them to survive all this shit, which is ridiculous. People shouldn't have to do that, because there are people that will die trying. It just doesn't make sense to me. You have to advocate for yourself. You got to be a bitch about it. You got to get on people's case. You got to remind people. You got to email. You got to call constantly until you get the help you need. You get the help you need by what by the means that you have. And unfortunately, the less that you have, the sometimes the harder it is, because they need to verify that you are indeed that bad off. Verify. Oh, okay. How the hell do you do that? You want to, you want to come see my little 4x6 plot at Ashley's house? You want to see me out in the street busking? You come follow me. I mean, I don't know. It is hard. But however you can get the help is worth it. And is going to, here's the thing is that when you get help, you're going to be able to help other people better. That is my view. The more help you get, the more you receive, and the more coping skills you develop, and the better you are, the more you understand yourself, and can learn how to, interpret, other people, and understand them, and really listen, and comprehend, conceptually what they are trying to say, where they feel heard. The more you're going to be able to help them. You got SSD first for your mental health and for your stroke, Lauren Huddleston. Some people who've had strokes, mostly, well, I can think of two, Wayne Dyer and Ram Dass. They called them strokes. You may have a different opinion. They said, Ram Dass said the stroke was one of the best things that ever happened to him. He likened it to a spiritual thing. And so did Wayne Dyer. I'm not surprised considering the sources, right? But Ram Dass was an atheist, and essentially, in college. He dropped LSD and gave a guru, he dosed a guru in India, and the guru just wasn't reacting, all tripped out. He was tripping, but he didn't know that he was, he did know that he was dosed. He figured that Ram Dass did it. But he acted completely normal, and Ram Dass was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you not experiencing anything amazing right now? Like, you're tripping balls. I forget, I think it was Maharishi. It might have been a different guru that he had, but anyways, whoever it was, said, no, it's all, this is you gave me this drug, and now I'm on this drug, and I'm just experiencing it. and Ram Dass just couldn't get over the amount of like lack of dissociation. But this guy had been practicing dissociation through meditation uh, most of his life. So being dissociated and not being dissociated become very two distinct forms of or states of being. So when you stay in a dissociative state through meditation, which you can achieve without drugs, it's blissful. It's very that feeling you get when you eat the mushrooms and you start smiling. Like you can get that from meditation. It takes a little longer. It takes a little bit more practice. But you can get it. So it was probably not. It was probably more of the visual stuff that he was like, that's weird. Like I know this feeling, but I don't know what all that is. So he had a cool head, and that piqued Ram Dass's interest so much that he became a yogi instead of pursuing psychology or psychiatry, whichever he studied. Neem Karoli Baba. I'm not sure if that's the one. Yeah. So maybe it is Neem Karoli Baba. I mean, I would have been just as surprised. Like, dude, I just dosed you with a 10 strip, and you're like, whatever. What gives? What's your secret? I'm all sticky. Does anybody have anything they want to share or talk about, or any questions or comments? Because I'm sticky, and after I get up from this, I'm gonna go take a shower. And I really am trying to stay, in my little space here. Psychologist. Thank you, Lorna. Ram Dass was a psychologist. Yep. There's a documentary about the last days of his life, and it's very moving. It's a little sad. Humidity. Humidity here today is 0%. Oh no, that's not right. It's 0% precipitation. Humidity 57%. And we're gonna get down to 44 tomorrow or this morning, tonight. And thunderstorms. Oh, that figures. So I need to leave Wednesday. Travel stuff. Next month is December already. Holy jeebus. Hey, Lydia. Yeah. Very late. But I do these early, so you're not late. I'm just early. That's what it is. I do it on Mondays at 10 so that I have a schedule, and it sets sets me up for the week. And I spilled shit all over the place. So we'll see how this week goes. Let me link the Discord for anybody who doesn't have that and wants it. There's the Discord. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. I could play us out with some music if you guys want to hear something. Something that won't get flagged because it ain't been published yet. Question is, what kind of music? All kinds of stuff. Want something weird? Do we want something? Wait a minute. How many's in there? Yeah. Let's do that one. This is an old recording from a mini disc. Let's see if this looks okay. And this hasn't been released. Where are we at here? Boom. And blam. All right. Oh, wait. Need to do this. And that. And then. No. And then that. This was, oh shit, I need to scroll down again. Yeah, it is one of those days. All right. This is a song called, it's not even the title, it was just, we got in a room and this was the vibe. So the song is called Vibe. Partially because of the vibe and partially because of the vibraphones. This was recorded in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, with myself, Jeremy Sullivan, Wilson Dever, and and Travis, my brother. This was a live take, straight to mini disc. Let me start that over. That's all, folks. You gotta reach this.